All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Max Letterly. I'm the Program Administrator for Taxpayer Services with the Department of Revenue. Is the mic? Can you guys hear me? You want to? Is that better, Terry? All right. So today I'm going to provide you with some updates on the IL 1040 for the upcoming tax season. I'm going to provide you with a walkthrough and overview of the identity verification letter response process that some of your clients may be subjected to, and then also provide you with some helpful hints for your upcoming filings, as well as an update on the adult use cannabis tax collections and distributions back to units of local government. So there aren't a lot of major changes to the IL 1040 form itself for this upcoming year. I think the big change that you'll notice on the form is a new checkbox in step 12. It's the health insurance checkbox that will be added to the IL 1040. If that box is checked, your client will be authorizing the Department of Revenue to provide them with health insurance eligibility information and share their contact and income information with the State Health Benefits Exchange. IDOR will share that contact and income information with the Department of Healthcare and Family Services and the Department of Insurance in order to provide that information to you and your client about eligibility for health insurance benefits and enrollment options. The information that is shared with those other state agencies will be kept confidential and used only for determining eligibility for enrollment in those programs. For tax year 2022, the exemption allowance has increased to $2,425. There are income exceptions. And then as the director had mentioned, the IL 1040 is being revamped in MyTax Illinois for the upcoming tax filing season. So we are switching to a question and answer style format, which is going to make it easier for taxpayers to file through MyTax Illinois. It's going to simplify the return. It's going to make it not look like they're filing tax forms. It's going to just ask them questions about their year and their income, potential credits they could qualify for, those types of things. It's going to make it a lot easier for them to file using MyTax and minimize some of the confusion that comes when somebody who's not a tax practitioner or accountant is looking at a return. They can actually answer these questions and get a return submitted on their behalf. And as the director had mentioned, the non-login return filing option is returning for this upcoming season. So with this change, you will not have to have a MyTax Illinois account in order to file an IL 1040 return. And I can tell you, working in taxpayer services, that is huge for my team because we will not have all of the calls that we receive about authentication and setting up two-factor and all of those things. So it's going to make it a lot easier for our team as well. So beginning in 2019, taxpayers who meet certain criteria will be selected to receive either an identity quiz, code, or documents letter from the department. And that process is really to ensure that the return that we received was filed by the taxpayer. Regardless of which letter is received, the taxpayer can respond electronically using the various links in the identity verification panel on our MyTax Illinois homepage. A login is not required in order to respond to one of these notices, and taxpayers without the ability to respond electronically can always submit documentation to the department via the mail or fax, and instructions are included for that in the letters that we send. Until a response is received and the taxpayer's identity is verified, that return will be held for processing. So taxpayers selected to take the identity quiz must first provide the letter ID, enter and confirm the last four digits of their Social Security number or ITIN. They're going to confirm whether they filed the return or authorizes the return to be filed on their behalf. And then they're going to enter the expected refund amount. After submitting the requested information, they will be presented with a screen indicating what documents they should gather to prepare to take their identity quiz. And then once they're ready, they can begin to take the quiz. So our identity quizzes consist of questions that only the legitimate taxpayer should be able to answer. Those would include sample questions like you see here. Those are comprised of both personal and tax return specific data. And if the quiz has failed, the taxpayer can always go to our documents option and respond either with documentation to prove out their identity, or depending on the level of information we have on that specific taxpayer, they may be presented the option to take another quiz. So taxpayers who are selected to receive a code letter will be mailed a code which must be entered into MyTax Illinois within a designated time frame. When completing the request, they simply enter their last name, enter their verification code that we provided on the notice, confirm whether they filed or authorized the return to be filed on their behalf, and then enter their expected refund amount. And then once everything is entered, the request can be submitted to the Department of Revenue, allowing for the return to continue processing. Lastly, some taxpayers may be selected to respond with specific documentation to aid in verifying their identity. Or as I mentioned, if a taxpayer fails the quiz, they can also elect to submit their documentation to us through this process. Some of the documents that are required include one document that shows the taxpayer's photograph and full name. So those would be driver's license, state ID, passport, those types of documents, as well as one document that has their full name and complete address that was used on the tax return that was filed with us. So utility bills, bank statements, pay stubs, those types of things. Upon entering the web request, they're going to enter and confirm the letter ID from the notice we sent. They're going to confirm whether they authorize the return to be filed on their behalf or if they filed it themselves. And then they're going to click the add option to add the required documents to the request being submitted. For each document that they attach, they must select the document type, add a description, and then choose their save file before selecting OK. Once all of their documents are attached, they can submit the web request for review, and that'll come into Kevin's team in processing to review and release the returns. These identity quizzes, code letters, and electronic document submission processes provide taxpayers with a quicker and easier way to verify their identity rather than respond via postal mail. As I noted, though, if a taxpayer does not have the ability to submit one of these electronically, they can always mail that documentation to us. So as we start heading into the new tax season, I did want to provide you with some basic filing tips for the IL-1040. Following these simple tips will help to expedite the processing of the return. It's going to also minimize the need for the department to contact you or your client. So the number one tip that I have is always going to be to file the return electronically. Not only are processing times greatly reduced with electronically filed returns, but when we run returns through electronic filing, all of the required documentation, the support, line entries, and other information are provided to us. That's going to greatly minimize the need for us to contact your client. The second tip is to ensure that the Social Security number and name on the return are accurately entered. And if the taxpayer is married, make sure that their spouse's Social Security number and name are also included. Next, if you are claiming a property tax credit, you must enter the county in which the property is located, along with the property number on Schedule ICR Illinois credits. You should also ensure that correct amounts of estimated payments made, including any overpayment applied from a prior year return, are entered. You can verify those on our website using the estimated payment inquiry. If any attachments are required, for instance, Schedule M, Schedule IL-WIT, Schedule ICR, all of those things, make sure that those are attached. And then lastly, ensure that you mark that third-party designee box. By marking that box, if you have to discuss the return with my team or have any related correspondence with us, you don't have to have a power of attorney on file if it's specific to that return. So over the past few years, we have seen a dramatic increase in the use of email as a means to communicate with my team in Taxpayer Services. That really started with the COVID-19 pandemic when taxpayers were at home and we had staff working remotely. In calendar year 19, we only responded and had only received 16,821 emails, which required a response. In calendar years 2020 and calendar years 2021, We responded to an average of 93,600 taxpayer emails per year, so we saw a dramatic increase in those first 2 years. And this year through October, we've already responded to over 115,000 taxpayer emails. So that behavior change has definitely taken place, and I don't see that shifting at any point in time. So we strive to respond to those emails within 24 hours, and we're largely successful in meeting that goal. So I encourage you. We have some of the common email addresses on the screen here, but we also have a variety of others on our website at tax.illinois.gov. I encourage you, if you want to communicate with us, to do that via email. Taxpayers can also contact us by phone, of course, at one of the numbers shown there, or you can visit any of our walk-in facilities for assistance. Additional contact information, along with our regional office locations and hours, are available on our website at tax.illinois.gov. And then just to wrap up, the director did cover some of the stats on adult use cannabis, which have been absolutely incredible. So I'm going to cover some sales information, some revenue collections, and then the cannabis-related tax distributions back to units of local government. So in fiscal year 2021, adult use cannabis sales totaled $1.05 billion. In fiscal year 22, those sales grew by 50%, with rising to a total of $1.5 billion. The growth in cannabis sales obviously resulted in higher tax revenues for the department. So in fiscal year 21, we saw collections of $317 million in tax and assessment payments related to adult use cannabis. In FY22, those collections grew to $466.8 million. And in total, we're now closing in on $1 billion in collections related to adult use cannabis since it was enacted in January of 2020. The department is responsible for ensuring that those taxes are applied correctly, that they're collected in a timely fashion, and that those local portions are accurately distributed back to units of local government throughout the state of Illinois. As you can imagine, those strong revenue collections have resulted in larger disbursements to units of local government. Those disbursements increased 77% from FY22 to FY21 to FY22. And in FY22, we distributed over $146 million to units of local government throughout the state of Illinois, which is money that's being used to help fund drug treatment programs, as well as reinvestment back into the communities. And with that, we're doing questions at the end. Okay.